Hey everybody, welcome into episode 18 of my YouTube journey. Tonight we're going to talk about why I collect vintage baseball cards. It's a question that I really hadn't pondered. It's just what I like, and I was asked to be on a podcast with a really successful podcaster. His name's Brett, and he does a really cool podcast called Stacking Slabs. And we followed each other on Instagram, and he heard me on Iowa Dave's 27 Questions for 27 Collectors series and reached out to me. Brett's podcast is mainly on modern cards, and that's what he collects. And he wanted to get a vintage collector, and for some reason he chose me, and I went on there and I expressed my views on vintage, and I was kind of passionate about it like I usually am. And I've had a lot of feedback on that. It's kind of blown me away. So tonight I want to address a little bit about why and go in a little more depth. And on that podcast, we talked about a lot of different aspects, and I'm going to touch on pretty much all of them, and I'm going to show some examples of some cards. So stay tuned for that. So I've already talked about my collecting journey several times, and growing up younger, I was in the junk wax era when I was a middle schooler, high school age, and that's unfortunate because my childhood collection is really not worth a lot other than the memories of it. So I haven't thrown them out. They're still worth something to me. There's different reasons to collect, and I feel like a lot of times people collect just for the money or they're prospecting or whatever, and that's cool if that's what makes you happy. That's just not for me at this point in my life, and I collect because I want to have some soul behind my collection. I want it to make sense. I want to feel proud of it. And so when I first got back in the hobby, one of the first things I did was open up a box of hobby box. And I went to a local card shop, and they had the boxes back there. I didn't even know which one to buy. And I was the only guy in there. It was in the middle of the day, and the guy that owns the shop was behind the counter, and he's like, "This is the one you want to open." I guess it was 22s or something. I don't really remember. And he was saying, the ones you want to hit are the parallels or the signed cards of rookies, and then there's numbered cards. I didn't know any of this stuff because hadn't collected cards in so long. So I start ripping up these full packs, and as I'm opening them, I'm hitting some big cards. Like I get a Shohei Ohtani, I hit a Aaron Judge, I hit, name it, I hit it, but they were base cards. And as I was pulling out ones that were shiny and chrome looking and had a little bit of reflection on them, the guy would grab a penny sleeve and he'd stick it in there real quick. But the base cards, he wasn't doing that with. And I was like, but this is a Shohei Ohtani. He goes, yeah, the base cards aren't really worth anything. And it was at that moment that I knew that probably wasn't the avenue I needed to jump back in the hobby in, because I came from an age where base cards meant something. They always meant something. And so I went home and opened all that up, and I had, I already opened it up at the shop, but I was looking at them, and sure, some of those shiny ones were of guys that are rookies, and those cards may be worth a lot of money one day, but right now they're not, and they may not ever be worth anything. We all saw those guys, come and go. So anyways, I went back into the vintage. So he proposed the question to me, why vintage? And he jumped right in the deep end is what I said. And he chose the avatar and the first pinned card on my Instagram page, and that's my 49 leaf Jackie Robinson. Well, he hit me right in my wheelhouse on that because I'm so passionate about that. That's why it's my avatar. It's my profile picture. And so there's history behind these players. There's history behind the sets. And it's cool to find out that history. And there's soul in that too. I mean, there's stories behind them, the players themselves, the records they set. So rather than looking forward, we can look back and we can pick out the guys that are the GOATs and people who are worthy of collecting and things like that. And we can choose where we spend our hobby dollars. And it just wasn't for me to bust open a $500 box and maybe get nothing. And you could hit one big and get a Paul Skeens, but I'd probably more likely get struck by lightning. So one of the things I explained to him, and I kind of got deep, and I surprised myself a little bit, but I thought about, before we went on and what I was going to say about vintage, and this is very true. I said, when you're younger, you're always looking forward. You're looking forward to, your prom date, a date with a girl. You're looking forward to where you're going to college. You're looking forward to finding the girl you're going to marry. You're looking forward to getting your first job. You're looking forward to graduating from college. All these things you're looking forward to. And as you get older and you have children, and they learn to walk, and then they go to school for the first time. You drop them off at kindergarten, and then they go to high school for the first time, and then next thing you know, they're graduating high school, and then they're leaving for college, and it breaks your heart, and you see them leave the nest. You have a parent die. All those things are life events, and when they happen, they're so powerful, and it causes you to reminisce and look back. And I think that's in our DNA as humans, and it's obviously in our DNA as collectors as well. So, the modern cards you're prospecting, you're looking forward to, man, this guy might be the next thing, and man, this guy had a great rookie year. I'm gonna sink a ton of money into this Mac Jones rookie quarterback card, and then you watch your money go down the drain. Whereas we can look back and we can collect guys that have already put things on paper and records. So it's kind of that way. We look back with fondness. I look back at that 1978 set that I have in a binder that I collected. That was the first pack of cards I ever opened. I look back at childhood memories that are associated with the cards. So the first thing I want to talk about, I'm going to do this John Mangini style. Usually I show the cards laid out on my Southern Collector board, but because of this being more about talking as I'm going, showing cards, I'm going to do it John Mangini style. I hope I make him proud, but I'm just going to show him to the camera. So the first thing, there's historic players in historic sets. So the first one with historic stories, this is one I talked about on Stacking Slabs. This is my 1949 Leaf Jackie Robinson. This card right here meant so much to the people who opened these cards, especially African Americans. They finally had a card that looked like they did. It was a great player. He had won Rookie of the Year by the time this card came out. And so just think about the meaning behind that card. Not just, hey, that's worth a lot of money. Think about the meaning. And then this is the other one I pointed out. This is the Bond Bread issue Jackie Robinson. This card actually integrated baseball cards. This card right here was the first card issued in a set of cards that had a black man's face on it. Think about that for a second. Up until this point, the Negro Leagues didn't have cards. There were some odd cards. There was one of a guy in the early 1900s who posed as an Indian, and he was on the team a week or two before they realized that he was actually a black guy and kicked him out of the league. But he happened to be on there on card photo day. So he got his photo made. I don't remember his name, unfortunately. But up until now, this is the first black player. So, this card was a set, 40-something cards, had some boxers in it. But it had all the other stars of the day. It had DiMaggio, Berra, Stan Musial. Well, I don't know if it has Stan Musial. I could be wrong there. But Pee Wee Reese, those kind of guys in that set. So Jackie was one of the guys, and he was treated like one of the guys. He just happened to be a black guy. So that's an historic set. Then you have stories like I just shared on that episode of Larry Doby. So this is Larry Doby's card, his Bowman card, 1951. And, this guy, again, he's a guy that was very brave and came in. He was the second black player in the major leagues and broke the color barrier in the American League. And then, of course, whoa, dropped the card. If you've watched my Lou Gehrig story, of course, everybody knows the story of Lou Gehrig and the significance of his story and how awesome, he was as a player, and he was the Iron Horse. And and he was unstoppable and never missed a game for all those games in a row, and then until a disease came and ended up ultimately taking his life, and the disease becomes named Lou Gehrig's disease after him. So that's just a group of cards. There's a lot of cards like that. Then you have cards of all-time greats. So in the modern days, we're projecting who could be an all-time great. Some people, say Aaron Judge. The stuff he's doing right now is incredible, and it is. He's doing things that are unheard of with his home run power and all that. And then you got Shohei Ohtani, who's being mentioned in the same sentence with Babe Ruth with his pitching exploits and his power numbers. But we know we can go get those all-time greats. They're already available. Here's one here. It's the 33 Gaudy Babe Ruth card. Now this is, a little more expensive, obviously, but when you mention all-time greats, he is the top of the heap. Babe Ruth is. He'll be known for 100 years, and there's no debating that. You know that right now. You don't have to prospect it. Then you've got the all-time baseball heartthrob, Mickey Mantle, the guy that meant so much to people my parents' era, and played in that Yankee Stadium market, and was beloved by so many people in the 50s when TV sets first came out and people were able to see baseball games for the first time on TV. And the number of TV sets from the time Mantle started in 1951 until 1960, increased like 20 times, to where they were rare in 51, to where almost most of American households had a TV by 1960. So they grew up watching them on TV. Then you've got guys like this man, Henry Aaron, who in my book is still the all-time home run king. So we don't have to project who's going to hit the most home runs. We know it was this guy. Now, of course, Bonds later beat him. Don't get me started on that. But beautiful card, too. I mean, dadgum, that's so pretty with the yellow color background and that. And then you got guys like Ty Cobb in pretty cool sets like this. It's a 1910 sepia postcard. It's got the Francis P. Burke image on it. Just such a beautiful card. Look at that look on his face right there. That is amazing to me. So another all-time great. No matter what happens from here on out in baseball history, everybody will know that about Ty Cobb. And then you've got cards that, if you're my age, you maybe got as a kid, or you met somebody in person and they just mean something. This one right here, in 1980, I was able to meet Phil Necro, and I was a little kid. I was 11 years old, and he signed this 1969 card I had in my set at the time, and it's kind of faded a little bit. It was a little black Sharpie, but Hall of Famer knuckleball expert Phil Necro. I was able to meet this guy, Gaylord Perry, and got his autograph on a card. I haven't got it graded, either one of these, obviously, but he held this in his hand, said hello to me, and he signed it. I told my going to Wrigley Field story on my last episode, and here's the Darryl Strawberry card that he signed right outside Wrigley Field for me that day. And so, this is very special to me. I don't know how much it's worth, but it doesn't matter. I was able to meet Don Mattingly like a week and a half ago at it was a old-timer baseball banquet in Nashville, and he signed this rookie card from my childhood collection. So, I don't have it graded. It doesn't matter to me. This card right here, I was able to have a small conversation with him that night. And the thing I asked him, I'll tell you what I asked him. I had seen on social media that week. I said, I saw a thing on social media this week that in 1989, you struck out one time looking out of all your at-bats, just one time. I said, who got you? He goes, man, I have no idea. He said, you're the second guy that's asked me that this week. That must have came out on social media. I said, yeah, it did. And then I told him, about growing up. And I remember seeing him play with the Sounds in 1981. And he looked me in the eye and just took his time with me. I was standing there with him, and he was, so engaging. Sometimes you don't want to meet your heroes, but in this case, the dude was awesome. So I'm singing Don Mattingly's praises right now. He was my guy growing up. I loved Don Mattingly. I tried to do my batting stance like him and everything, and he signed that card for me. This one right here, 59 Mantle. This one, my Little League coach gave me when I was 12 years old. Of course, it was ungraded until this past year at the National when I got it graded. But when I was 12, my Little League coach gave me this card. And when I was 14, he came to a grand opening of a store at the mall 15 minutes from my house in Nashville, Tennessee. And I stood in front of him that day, and my heart was pounding and my palms were sweating. And Mickey put his famous autograph right there on the face of that card. And I also got a ball autograph that day. And so, now that card is expensive, but it's priceless to me. I'll never sell that card. There's most cards in my collection. One day when I'm aging out and I want to liquidate my cards and get the money for my family, that's not going to be one of them. That's going to one of my kids, and they'll know that was their pops or my grandkids. That was their dad or their pops card from his youth. And so that card has a lot of importance in my heart. Another one, in today's cards, they try to create I call it false scarcity, but it's scarcity by numbering cards with different colors or different parallels. And while that's really cool, I showed this one a while back. This is my Ted Williams play ball card, and it's signed. It was stuck in a scrapbook, and so unfortunately it's got all this paper glued on the back side of it. But regardless of that, it's an amazing card, and there's only 10 of these graded. So once I get this one graded, that'll make 11, bad back or not, but 11 cards out of all the play ball cards that are out there. So that's some scarcity. This Shoeless Joe Jackson 1916 Famous and Bar card, there's only 10 with this back on it. Has the Famous and Bar back. There's only 10 of these. So, that's real scarcity. Those cards are so old, the other ones just didn't survive. And then I was able to get this one. I shared my Larry Doby story. Well, here's one I picked up since I shared those cards. This is a Red Man card that's autographed right there in 1955 and has the tab on it. And this is a Pop 1. This is the only Larry Doby signed Red Man card that I can find anywhere on any pop chart, pop count chart. So that is real scarcity, 1. So I got this on the REA auction. I'm really proud to add that to my signed Larry Doby list. But again, that's some cool scarcity right there. The other thing we got into that day with Brett was different ways that sets were distributed. So there's some cool stories behind sets. There's cards that came in bread. This is Tip Top Bread. This is Larry Berra, the outfielder. Y'all know the outfielder from the New York Yankees, Larry Berra. Well, obviously, this is Yogi Berra, and he ended up being a catcher. But it's got the Tip Top Bread advertisement on the back. But this came in a loaf of bread in 1947, and it's really cool. This is one of his rookie cards, I guess you could call it, and it's beat the heck. But it's a 1, and I feel great about it being a 1. But hey, man, I think it's a really cool card. I don't care what the grade is. That's the other thing, and I explained this to him. In the modern world, you're at a 10 or bust. You get a 9 on a card. Like I got a Paul Skeens rookie Aqua Lava signed card. I think it's 1 of 100, and I put it in a penny sleeve when I got out of the box and sent it in to get graded, and it got a 9, and I'm not sending it back. But a lot of people keep sending them back, seeing if they can't get a 10 because it's a 10 or bust. That Larry Berra is a 1, and I think it's awesome. I don't care if it's not a 10. I'm just glad to have that sucker. I should have looked up the pop count before I put it on here, but it's a very low pop count of an all-time great, and it's his rookie card or his pre-rookie card, whatever you want to call it. Then we had candy cards. So this is an American Caramel of Sam Crawford. Look how beautiful that is. It's got an amazing back on it. And you can see the caramel candy stains, or it's just dirt, I don't know, from being so old. So that's another issue. We got another candy issue. I have the Cracker Jacks issue. This is a 1915 another Sam Crawford, same guy, different candy company, but see the big old Cracker Jack stain right there on his belt. I kind of like them with the Cracker Jack stains. I think it's awesome. There's one up here on the top border. That Cracker Jack stain on his belt went all the way through the card. Well, actually, I think it probably originated on the back. But it's such a it's a cool story. I mean, we know where that card came from. Somebody in 1915 pulled that card out of a box of Cracker Jacks. Now, in today's Cracker Jack world, you know, your little prize in a piece of paper, those weren't. Those were down in the box. Caramel coated candies, which actually was molasses, is up against the cardboard of the card. And again, you know, 10 or bust. That right there, you're never getting a 10. It has a Cracker Jack stain, but nobody that I know of that collects Cracker Jacks care about the stains. In fact, we think it adds beauty to the card. Here's an advertising back card. So this is a Ty Cobb, and it's the Globe stores advertising back, and it's a 2. Again, not a great. It's got some staining on it, some water stains or something. Very low pop count on this, but it's really cool. This is part of the M101 releases that were made by Felix Mendelssohn in Chicago, Illinois. There's like 16 different ad backs. So, and each back has different levels of scarcity. So that in itself adds a little twist and makes it fun to collect those cards. And when you really get into them, you can know, like, the Sporting News back is the most common. The blank back is this so you know the scarcity of each back. And if you don't, you can look it up. But it's really fun to collect those cards. Then there were cards that came inside of cigarettes. Imagine that. Today's world, we try to keep kids away from tobacco products, and you can't even advertise cigarettes on TV or in magazines like you could when I was a kid. But back then, they put baseball cards inside cigarette packs. So this is part of the T206. This is Tris Speaker's rookie card. Beautiful blue background, playing for the Boston Red Sox. So, you know, that was another way. So there's multiple ways that these cards were distributed that all have stories in and of itself. So then, you know, talking about prospecting, you can go back in time and you already know who some of the greatest of all times. They're already Hall of Famers. You don't have to wait to see if they're going to be a Hall of Famer. So you can go out and get guys like this. Stan Musial's rookie card. It's a beautiful card of a young Stan Musial. His hat's all bent up, and it just looks like a Polaroid picture or something. But it's got a great back. But there you go. You can go get these, and you know they're the better the grade, the more pricey they get. This one's a 5.5, but you can get one of these in a 2, and it's not a break the bank card. It's going to cost a whole lot cheaper than what you're going to pay for a Shohei Ohtani rookie card, I'll tell you that. Or you can get this guy. I've already shown one Hank Aaron that I loved when I was a kid. I dreamed of having a Hank Aaron rookie card. It's just so beautiful with that orange, and got the old Brave logo on there, and got him in that fielding position down low. You can see his youth and his Milwaukee Brewers hat. It's got the beautiful green backs with the cartoons and the little story thing about it. So great rookie cards. Or you can get one of the greatest left-hander of all time, Sandy Koufax. Look how young he is there. He was a bonus baby, and he had to kind of learn on the job, never played in the minor leagues. Look how young he is. Or as it says on the back, you know, Sanford Koufax. It's got the great cartoons on the back. I wish they still had cartoons on the backs of cards, but just great cards out there. And so then there's beautiful cards. So today's cards are really cool. Got the shiny and got the sapphires and all that kind of stuff, which is absolutely beautiful to look at. But back then, check this Art Deco out. Ted Williams leaf card. Is that not beautiful right there with that red back and got the blue popping on it, got the sleeves, and he's looking off in the distance. Looks like some kind of Andy Warhol picture or something. I mean, look how awesome that is. Now this one, again, you don't have to collect tens. This is a one. It's got tape on the outside edge there, but the color on this sucker just popped. I got this early on when I moved into vintage. I just thought it was beautiful, and I wasn't going to spend a lot of money. And I'm not going to upgrade it. I love this card. With tape and all, it kind of tells a story. Somebody loved this card enough back in the day to tape it in a scrapbook or something. So another one, just another great card. Check this one out. I just got through showing one Stan Musial. I think this is one of the most beautiful cards in the hobby. It's the Bowman Stan Musial. Look at that green background. Now this one's a 5, but this 1952 Bowman got his old Redbird uniform on, classic stance. It doesn't get any better than Stan the Man. He has several beautiful cards. His 53 Bowman color is out of this world beautiful. So got that one. And then we'll finish on Jackie Robinson. We started on Jackie, we'll finish. But his 53 Tops, yeah, that's about as beautiful a card as you can get. It ain't shiny. It ain't got any chrome on it or anything like that. But an iconic man in the history of America in a beautiful baseball card and what all that means right there. So that is that's my story about why I collect vintage. So if you got anything you want to add in the comments on why you collect vintage, add it in there. I'm going to put a link to the podcast that I was on. I've had so many people reach out to me. Had Adam with Splendid Sports tonight tag me in that before I even made this. I'd already planned on doing this video. I've had a bunch of younger people reach out to me on Instagram because he talked about my Instagram. And so they've DM'd me on Instagram and they've asked me questions about vintage and told me they really enjoyed the episode. That made me feel good, especially when I go onto their Instagram page and everything on there is modern. So for them to tell me that, I know I struck a chord, and I'm hoping one or two of the people who listen to that who maybe never gave vintage a chance is going to give vintage a chance now and at least look at it and understand it, because I'm telling you, and if you're my age, I'm 55, as you get older, we start to look back a little more, and we look back not like, man, I hate where I'm at now. I wish I could go back in time. No, it ain't that at all. You look back fondly. And also, the older people in society, whether it's the elders of some congregation, or it's the people at a Passover meal that's the older people of their family, or it's a tribesman and it's the older guy of the tribe sitting by the campfire. We're the ones, the older ones, they're the ones who pass down the history to the young people. And back before there were books, it was all verbal. So it's in our DNA. We're still the same people now, even in this age, when we can buy a car that can drive itself down the road, than they were back when the American Indians roamed this continent. So it's a fun way to look at it. I love vintage. I love what it means. There's books out there that you can involve in your collecting. I'll collect a card and get really interested in that player and start reading books about them. Or I can read a book like Glory of Their Times, and those two Sam Crawfords I showed you, I picked those up because I read that book. I didn't really know who he was, and I got interested in him after I read the book about him, and I listened to the audio book and heard his voice and heard him in his own voice describing, what it was like to play ball back then. So leave me a comment. Let me know how you feel about vintage, and if any of this struck a chord. And I appreciate you watching, and we'll see you next week.